All right. Greetings. I'm working through, of course, getting all the tech. And I am having the darndest problem getting a camera. Oh, here we go. Maybe you can hear me on free conference call now as well. So, free conference call should be able to hear and see the display. Telegram should be able to see and hear the display. I'm not sure why camera is not working. Rumble should be screen sharing the presentation, and I should have volume. I guess I gotta stop a moment. Yeah, it's should have volume on Rumble and all the other platforms. So hopefully we can get this going. I see a few people already on free conference call and Telegram. I want to welcome you. We've got a couple more minutes to give everybody a little bit more time, and and again, I am not sure why the camera is not working on anything now. So I wonder if maybe I'm going to have to either maybe something's up with the camera or that port. So I'll have to do some checking on that to get that because I've used the camera and other things. Okay. Not sure why. And it could be there's a lot of things that are being shared at the same time. All right. So as you're coming in, be sure to put your at least your first name and what county on Indiana that you live on today, that you call home, so we can make sure we get you in the the agenda presentation for the record. I will be updating it right after the call. Hopefully, I mean, there's some of them I'm not going to be able to know necessarily on YouTube unless you put it in the chat. And Rumble, put it in the chat that you're here and your first name and what county. I don't know if Odyssey has a way to chat, but wherever you're at, put your first name and what county on Indiana that you live on, so we can make sure we get you included. And you'll be able to see once we get in there into the agenda. I'll show you where you'll be listed on there when it goes on the actual record for the assembly. All right, so we'll go ahead and get things started. Again, I am Christine Van Pelt, State Coordinator, Lead Recording Secretary for the Indiana Assembly. Land and soil jurisdiction, the General and Militia Assemblies are in session. Woohoo! So we got to bring some things on. So first thing we have to do is we have to remember that we've got to bring God back into it, because it wasn't, if you'll remember, the Declaration of Independence was never about separation from God. It was about separation from state, from the king, right? From the tyrant. So we've got to bring God back in. You got to get past all the indoctrination. God has to come back in. You have to remember who Yeshua, whichever name you want to go with. We're still working through that, every one of us, but you know who the Christ is, right? You got to work through that. We know that this is the time that's what we have to work with, and you've got to come back to that, and that's going to be truth in your word and spirit, showing that with your love, the law of love. So let's take a moment to honor our Creator. All right. So we do want to remember that 2 Corinthians 6, verse 7, by the word of truth, by the power of God, by the armor of righteousness on the right hand and on the left. Truth stands the test of time. We know this to be true. It tells us right there. That's why it's the power of God. So when you stop lying, stop allowing others to lie around you, stop accepting the lies, and get clear on the truth, you'll start seeing God in action. There's also Ephesians 6:11 Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the assaults of the devil. 12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against worldly governors, the princes of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness which are in high places. What do you think we're dealing with? Please remember this. And I do have here that you need to remember, this is the prayer that, if you'll remember, Christ said, this is the way to pray. So if you don't know exactly what to say, but you know you just need to have that time with the Father, go right here. And that's through Christ. All right. And here again, Anna told us, so teach yourself not to lie. Be truly fearless. She told us that in Article 4704, confirmation of truth. Okay. And she puts a challenge in that one of stop lying yourself. And one of the key lies that we all have within ourselves is within our own name. And they're so small. They seem so insignificant, but remember the phrase, the devil's in the details. When you start cleaning up those small pieces of debris, you'll start getting clearer and clearer on what's truth and what's not. So we need to put this disclaimer out. We're engaged in the practice of self-government. That means we're cleaning up our own actions. We can't fix them until we have no right to talk to that. This is where judge not lest ye be judged. Don't you dare start trying to correct them until you've started taking steps to correct your own actions. You have no business trying to correct them until you correct yourself and get yourself in alignment as to what you're supposed to do, to self-govern yourself. Stop trying to blame someone else and throwing it off on someone else to do it for you. Get up. Everyone here is volunteering their precious time and skill. Each one is an American with rights and prerogatives equal to your own. They're doing this work out of mutual necessity to restore the lawful American government. Demands for services, temper tantrums, and misplaced anger are inappropriate. This country does not belong to its government. This country belongs to the people who live here, and you're one of them. All right, we'll go ahead with the Bivens decision. Again, as you're coming in, please make sure you put at least your first name and what county on Indiana you live on today, and put it in the chat. And I want to take note, 2 weeks ago, we had puppies, again, 8 puppies. So you're going to hear all different sounds we've got now. It sounds like they're a magpie. Anybody that's familiar with the reference, but magpie. But there's various sounds that we've been hearing, but this week is the plan to then move them to a bigger area because they're already walking around. So anyone interested in a free pup, please get a hold of me. You're welcome. And they're free, unless you want to help support with getting mom fixed. We have to take care of getting mom fixed this time. All right. So again, make sure put in the comments what your first name and what county you live on. We'll make sure we'll give a shout out as we go along. All right. So the Bivens decision. This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at today's meeting that is a member of any law enforcement agency or public agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agencies present? Is there any response to the... Hello?
No.
Okay. You can always, at least let us know. It's not that you can't be here, but at least let us know. So we, we are up front with each other. Americans are up front. Hearing and I'm not really seeing any. Okay. So is there any response to the Bivens decision for the second time? All right. Hearing and seeing none. All right. Any response to the Bivens decision for the third and final time? You can always either respond in the chat or if you're on a like Telegram or free conference call that you can comment. Okay. No response. So further, anyone who is here under false pretenses, anyone who is working for any foreign government, including territorial United States or municipal United States, anyone who is being paid or coerced to be here, must fully disclose their presence and purpose now or leave the premises. Here's our reminder of the civil peacetime flag and our right to peacefully assemble. All right, so let me take a moment, stop sharing, and look real quick at comments. All right, we have Johnny on Hendricks County. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're not going to address this as an assembly call, so it's not an open format for questions. If you wanted questions on the assembly call, that's where you have to present ahead of time to be able to put it on the agenda as far as regular questions. It's not an open call for that type of thing. You can send me a direct email to be able to, but for the most part, I'm going to probably send you somewhere to be able to do some research on it. But again, the assembly calls are not the place for that type of forum at this point. Okay, but welcome, and we'll make sure we get you, Johnny, on the agenda from Hendricks County. All right, welcome. All right, that is on YouTube. Johnny's on YouTube. All right, let's see. And free conference call, I saw we've got John on Carroll County. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope everybody is doing well. Hello, how are you?
Okay, I guess I got a hot mic on this. I didn't know that. Sorry about that earlier.
Oh, no worries.
This is the first time I'm on FCC, and I don't have a hot video, do I?
No, video is not on.
Oh, good.
Now,
good.
So are you on a computer or
I'm
your
on
phone?
A laptop.
You're on your laptop. Okay, in the bottom left, there is a little microphone that you can click on, and that will mute your mic. Then if you did want to speak, that's where you'd unmute again.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All
right, great.
Thank you.
And welcome.
And congrats on the puppies.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, it's amazing. They're adorable, but there's 8 of them.
Yeah.
And we have 3 dogs. I mean, it's a lot, but they're amazing. It's great. But we are trying to already actively seek to find them loving homes as we go along. We just don't have the yard space. We're sitting on, it's not even a quarter of an acre, if that. And we're renting. So It's not like we can, there's not a privacy fence up. So we can't even really let them out, So it really, that's what we looked for with the last round is make sure you can also take them on, do you have the space? Do you have the time? They look adorable and cute right now.
What breed are they?
Stafford Terrier. And we do know for sure who the father is this time.
Okay.
So we have pictures, that we can be able to share as well. But it's been interesting, and it all happened rather quickly. Of course, they do that, though. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad that you were able to get on free conference call this time. And so now you also know how to be able to say hi and talk with us.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll go ahead and get things moving along here. I think okay. So right now that's what I'm seeing on the different platforms. And of course I'm technically across all of the platforms. But I'm primarily through free conference call, which, by the way, when you're on the free conference call homepage for the assembly, let me screen share so you can be able to see what I'm talking about. That if you want to actually get into the call, but it's then you also don't get recognized of, that you were a participant, and for the record that you or at least trying to come
The
forward.
recording
here.
has started.
Yeah, that would be important. It's recording on Rumble, so so all of those other platforms. So we've picked up good here at this point, at least. All right. Screen share so that, oh, it's already screen sharing. Okay. So when you scroll down on the Assembly's free conference call page, when there is a call going on, the radio will be on and you can hit play and you can at least listen to it as like a radio kind of call. But of course you wouldn't be able to comment or anything like that. It's just a listening opportunity, but that's only when it's live. Now, whatever is then, does go through the radio portion here, gets uploaded to the Assembly's podcast feed. So you'll be able to see it there. And I'm going to go into a few changes about the new member orientation later on as we go. So we'll be popping back and forth with that. All right, so let's go ahead and get moving forward then. All right, so in the presentation agenda, it's going to have the agenda. The actual agenda is getting down to here. These are all important information that we still need to go through. As that reminder, we have to have the repetitiveness because there's been so much indoctrination that literally people are blinded. They're not seeing right in front of their face and still going with the lie, even though it's right there. Okay. So just like they use the media for propaganda to do that, repeat, because they're repeaters to try and ingrain and reprogram you to think that that's the way it's supposed to be. That's what we have to do here too. So that's why a lot of this in the beginning portion is a lot of the core things that are essential for you to, as reminders, to be able to help you with building where you need to be internally to make this work correctly this time. And then, of course, then the elements after the agenda are all support to be able to help you with going further to help support the assembly. And these are all, they don't just have the page number, they are also linked. So when you go into the PDF, if you wanted to go straight to it. But again, those reminders of repeats to help you remember and break that programming. So it'll be this page here where I'll be putting in who's on what, who's joined us on which call or which platform, so that it's in the agenda here for the record as well as on the recording, because we called it out. So that way you can be a part of your hit. This is literally history making every single time. You need to look at
Christine?
It that way. Yes, go ahead.
Hey, I'm on this free conference call.
Uh-huh.
And I'm new to this, but anyway, after you did that screen share or whatever you did, across my screen it says meeting paused, and it's still saying meeting paused. So
okay, hold on, let's see. Thank you for letting me know that. That's helpful, so because with everything else going on. So let's see. I don't know why it would say meeting paused, because it's screen sharing.
okay, now something had changed again. I see Christine Van Peltney and
okay.
All
right, now let's do this. Now let me see it go to the screen share. Are you able to see the presentation now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you very much for letting me know. So that way we can get all the recordings straight. There's a lot of platforms going on.
Oh, yeah.
But it's trying to get the word out. Jeez. It's trying to get the word out to everybody, to as many people as possible. It's the truth. And we were told, right, to go out and spread the good news, right?
Yep.
Spread the word. Yep. Okay, so here is, if you want to give direct support for James and Anna, because James had been going through some health issues, recovering, definitely. But of course, there's still, regular additional costs because of trying to go through recoup process. So if you wanted to send them support, there's their Cash App to get it directly to them. And here are 2 links about where you can support the assembly directly. Because again, this is of, by, that means you. So everything that gets done from the assembly means is by you. That there is no other outside organizations that are performing in the background, doing all the little duties. This is actually you, the people, are supposed to be picking up and actually stepping in and taking care of this. It's not taking over the de facto's job. It's actually stepping up and taking care of the actual republic form of government we are owed. Okay, so bear that in mind. There are no other organizations that are that is being outsourced to cover to get all the work done. There are no employers that are taking from people's pay to be able to set aside and garnish or whatever for to be able to send it to the assembly. There's no IRS there enforcing to make sure that it gets sent to the assembly. There is the only way the money gets to the assembly to support the assembly is because it comes directly from you, by you directly. If you're not giving, then how do you think the things are still getting met? How do you think it still gets met? Here are 2 links that you can be able to go to for support. The Indiana Assembly.Square site does have a link that ends up taking you to the shop that's at home on Indiana as well. That also has the other products, goods that you can be in, services that you can be able to support in that way as well. All right, so we're going to run through some county updates, update on the new member orientation, calls to action, treasury update, a list of Anna's articles, catching up from, because we did not have the last General Assembly call, and we did not have the last General Assembly call to re-adjourn till this month, which, by the way, because last week was for Memorial Day. Well, Sunday evening, we had a storm that went through here and our power went out, and it didn't come back on until 10 minutes to 7 anyway on Monday night. So there wouldn't have been a call. And I probably wouldn't have had to been, depending on, if I'd have been more fired up, I may have had the email out sooner, but I wouldn't have been able to have an email out to say that it was canceled because there's no power. So it was interesting how that worked. It was as though God was saying, okay, so go ahead, just let this go. Everybody needs to have some time to enjoy the weekend, have some time together with family, and remembering why. And it's not just remembering that all of those that have fallen and that we have lost through all of this, but it's also remember that we lost them because of all these mercenary wars, because of all this falsehood. All the more reason do you really still want to even try to think about trying to still be a U.S. citizen. They've clearly called war on U.S. citizens. Americans are in peace. This is why this is a huge struggle, and they can't see us because they're so programmed and indoctrinated into what happened. The Democratic Republic started in 1824, but it was not because of the Declaration of Independence, nor was it by either of the constitutions. I'm putting a short presentation together, some research that I've found on that, and so stay tuned for that. And then the militia portion is reminders of support of ways to help through the peacekeeping aspect as well. Now, we want to remember that our next General Assembly call is adjourned until June the 17th, and the Jural is for the 10th. So the General Assembly is the 17th, and the Jural is the 10th. So that way we have it in case, because it is Indiana. We've had a lot of storms lately, plus where a train is right here. So sometimes it'll kick the internet. And so we want to make sure it's at least try to get that information out. We are not ending on a CNA, DNA option. All right. So things of logic and laws of freedom. Okay. About freedom. Every man and woman is born free and deserves to live and die free. Everyone is responsible for him or herself, for what we think and what we do. With every right comes a responsibility. Our individual rights end where another's rights begin. Rights and freedoms that are not exercised are moot. When we enslave another, we enslave ourselves. We are responsible for directing those we employ. If we don't like something, it's up to us to change it, and we have that ability to change it. If we see an injustice, it's up to us to correct it. They even have that saying, see something, say something. But that's where it is. If it's an injustice, it's up to you to stand up and say something and correct it. If you want peace, it's our duty to keep it. If we're bogged down, it's our job to climb over or dig under. But you have to get in and roll up the sleeves and start actually doing something. You have to pick it up. Stop trying to slough it off the lazy way, the lazy U.S. citizen laziness of passing it off onto somebody else. If we cherish our own rights, we must cherish the rights of others. If we cherish our own freedom, we must cherish the freedom of others. And that's a great article from Anna. That's an orientation for newbies of Article 3014. And if you do search AnnavonRights.com and put in either the key term newbies or orientation, that's going to give you a lot of good tips to be able to start and you break through a lot of this. Many want to think that that once they've status corrected, that they have some kind of fairy dust or there's some kind of a magic wand, or that it's going to fix everything. But they don't want to put any of the work involved. They just want to send an email, hey, I have this problem, you need to take care of it, and da-da-da-da, and they walk away. And it's like, no, you got yourself in it. You're going to have to take the steps to get you out. So you have work to do. You're going to have notices to send. This is all with your own status correction. Then you got to do the homework about how it is of pulling. It's all the information is there about how the assembly is supposed to function, but you're going to have to get in to do the homework to see how that functioning works, how to get into that. And we've got many that are trying to force their status. I had an email come through that through all the language, they had all caps, estates and trusts and everything, and wanted to state that they were that they had corrected their status, but provided no proof that they had corrected their status, and wanted me to give them information on how to deal with the title insurance and everything because they're trying to do a real estate sale within 2 weeks. I'm like, well, you really need to go back to the group that supported you, because you didn't learn that from here. So, it's very clear on you're revealing yourself within your own response of what you're there for. And that's what we have to also be willing that we can't just open the door to everybody. That's what's happened with the U.S. government, because once they allow dual citizenship within the executive, judicial, and legislative branches, and that's when the house was divided, right? All right. You need to remember that nationality is a birthright, but assembly membership is a choice, which means you have to actually, if you want to join, yes, but you're going to get put to work. There's also going to be boundaries. You don't just get to come in here and railroad and think you're going to take it over and turn it into whatever it is you want to turn it into. We've got a clear vision of we've been given as to what the steps, what needs to be done. But you all have to come together to see who's going to fill in what roles and who's going to start playing the roles and start doing what they're supposed to be doing. But it's not about anybody coming in and thinking they're going to dictate and change things all around. We're going back to what was already active and in play for a few years back from 1776. It was actively in play, our actual republic at the time. So don't think that there's an opportunity to come in here to be able to change it, nor are we doing any reformation of their system. Right now, we have to get our republic standing, start getting our people our Americans self-governing. That's going to start cleaning up a lot of that. And once we also have our court up and running, and then we'll be recognized as its own government, and then they have to stand down. And then that's when, if they don't, we have then the authority to address and take more lawful terms in making that happen. But it's not until we come together. Again, united we stand, divided we fall. We know this to be true, but every step of the way, everyone wants to find every which way to run from every different direction to divide. How do you think any of this is going to come together if you don't come together yourself? So this is the coordinator's mission, that we all work with and strive, and everyone should be sharing the same mission and embody it within themselves to be able to strive to be their best, to be able to bring this forward. We cannot fail. We are willing and able to do this work physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We have resolve and determination. We walk the walk, we walk the talk, and work every day to bring the du jour into reality. We have excellent tools to complete our work. We set realistic and achievable goals. We learn and research constantly. It's not a done deal. We do have a timeline. The timeline is for when we want to get our court standing up and running, so that we can actually be recognized the way you want us to be recognized. We do track our progress. That's how you be able to keep things moving forward. We measure our strengths and weaknesses so that we can improve on the weaknesses and help continue the strengths. We continually improve and revise and accordingly. That's the course correction. As we learn, we have to make those adjustments to be able to improve it. And we want to conduct ourselves with peace and love. It's not platitudes and slippery, nice, sloppy, slippery, sugary niceness. Peace and love is completely different than the platitudes. Okay, so get that in mind, because we're not here. It's not about, if your feelings are hurt, you need to look at why your feelings are hurt. We've got work to do. It's not that anybody is trying to point and call you an idiot because you didn't do this or you haven't done this. If you're taking that, that's on you, and you need to address that within yourself. But it's not coming from Americans. It's not coming from here. Well, all right. So then there's also, because it's from the indoctrination, it's from that programming, that they're also easily coming in as infiltrators, because they're real easy to take the bait. Because if somebody just dangles $1 or $2 in front of them, they're real quick to be that quick, lining up real quick to be that informant. So, and it's because of the indoctrination. And they really think they're doing the right thing. So here's a list of what the states have put together, from the Federation have put together, of actual how their modus operandi is, of how they're always trying to attack the assemblies in the process. And it's for division. It's to create, purposely designed to create division, because if we are united, we'll be successful. But the truth is, mission statement. Our Indiana Assembly is dedicated to the restoration of a complete and fully operational land and soil jurisdiction, state and county court system serving the people of Indiana, and the preservation of the national trust, the enforcement of the public law, the upholding of the federal constitution owed to our state and people, the repopulation of our land and soil jurisdiction, the filling of vacated public offices, and the reclamation of our material and intellectual public and private assets. That's the actual role of what the assembly is. 7 things that the assembly is supposed to be doing. Already identified, already outlined, and it's every state assembly. It's not just one state has it and this state doesn't. All 50 states have the same mission statement. To these ends, we, the living people of Indiana, have called the eligible Indiana nationals and citizen electors to assemble and to serve as jurors and officers. And we have established the process and procedure to qualify jurors and others competent to hold state citizenship in public office. We do this peacefully and without rancor in the exercise of our unincorporated powers and capacities. And that means we're having to deal with every step of that. Outreach mission. Our mission is to help people understand who they are, why they were misidentified as U.S. citizens of the United States, and provide a solution by correcting their political status, joining the Indiana Assembly, including home county assembly, becoming actively involved in restoring the Republican form of government we are owed. It's not a democratic republic. It's a republic. We do this through a combination of consulting, facilitation, and training services, and provide the optimal benefit to the future American. But that, again, means you have to show up. A lot of this is because you're mischaracterized, misidentified as U.S. citizens of the United States, is because you're behaving like them. Very clear and easy to spot. Value statements. We stand under the laws of nature. The laws of nature's God, the 10 Commandments, the Declaration of Independence. We accept the fiduciary responsibility of the Indiana Trust and operate under the prudent man standard. But it also is no self-gain, no personal gain. We keep the peace and uphold the public law. We report crime. We value each man and woman as a unique creation of our Creator and recognize them as a powerful co-creator. We willingly choose to self-govern and strive to show up as our best self in each and every experience. We do not and we will not condone or participate in any form of insurrection, rebellion, or creation of armed forces other than the lawful state assembly militias operated as they're supposed to be operated within each state, and our land-based Continental Marshal Service, which is the jurisdictional interface with the U.S. Marshal Service. So the land and soil is the Continental Marshals, hence Continental for the actual land. We perform under the treaties and constitutional agreements already established and for supporting the restored American government, the reconstruction thereof, and will become responsible for the conduct of the restored Confederation and Federal Republic. Pay attention. And will become responsible for the conduct of the restored Confederation and Federal Republic. What we're seeing by de facto elected officials is completely unbecoming of public officials. Here are the assembly documents, the affirmation and purpose of conduct. That's for participating with the assembly through committees, elected or appointed official capacities. Your contact info to give to the assembly, so we know how to reach you for all areas. The General Assembly, Jural Assembly, Militia Assembly. We need to have that from you to make sure that that's updated, and you keep that updated as well. The men and women points of order, that's for your records, but to keep it beside you so you can study that to see how to be able to handle yourselves on the call, because you're going to have to talk. And you're going to, as you start actually getting involved, it means you'll have to have not just talk, but also have the camera on. Now, I did stress in the very beginning that I was having issues with the camera. And I think there's even a couple calls where I've had some problems. So I'm going to have to do some tech dive as to what's going on with that. But for the most part, I try to keep the camera on because Americans look at each other. We see each other. The Assembly Militia Standards and Principles, that too is for your personal records, but to keep that with you because that is giving you more information of standards and principles of more of what the militia is actually about. So you can start breaking all the illusions of thinking that the militia is supposed to be like the National Guard, how they set up the National Guard. And then standard operating procedures template, that's if you're interested in actually starting to support on a committee. You have to go through the process. You can't just say, hey, I want to go on a committee, but you're going to have to actually verify your status correction. You're going to have all have the cancellations done, presented, and things like that. But then this is the document for the committees as the General Assembly assigns to the committees what the project, what they're working on. It's a process to help keep it moving forward. So there's actual measurement timeline. So there's an actual deliverables. So there's no delaying and dragging out of trying to get some work done. Yes, go ahead.
On that one comment you said about Americans speak to other Americans by seeing, by video, video. Like, so if I speak to you on the free conference call, do you want me to have my video of me as I speak?
Whenever you're ready to start doing that, you can. But as if you get to where you are actually starting to get more involved in interacting with being a participant on a committee or with being an elected official or an appointed official, then your camera will have to be on.
Okay.
Because you're at that point, you're a public. You have to, right? Right. Okay. So, but at this point, it's also start getting comfortable of having that camera on. It's also to start helping others to see you too, right? So they can start that you're a live person, a live living being. You're not someone that's just or a bot hiding behind a screen thing, right? They'll get to see that you are a living man that's actually going through this too. It's not just, well, there's a name up there, which that's helpful to see, that there's somebody actually in the call, but you don't really know unless you're actually seeing, right?
Right.
So, and that's ways to start helping others. One, to help you start feeling more comfortable so that others start, so you can start being seen, right? But it helps others to start feeling more comfortable to say, well, I see that they have their camera on, so maybe I need to start having my camera on too, and help start opening up, right? Because everybody's been so scared about everything going on, that we have to help each other, be that support system for each other to help bring us forward in this.
I know me, like with this mic too, like, I've been shy about, like, YouTube was great because I don't think you could speak on that, but you could chat.
Right.
But like on this, it's nice to interact with you, but I was scared to interact with you. So I got to get, like you said, I got to get comfortable.
Right. And what is that though? That's just a programmed fear, right? Of something, it hadn't even happened yet. Is, you have no idea, you've seen me though on many a calls, you've met me on a call directly. So it's, it's just that, those indoctrinated fears of now we're coming to a different place. This is getting in front of an assembly.
Yep.
You're doing well, though. You're doing well. And that's showing others, too, how you're progressing. Because the chats are great, because it also helps everybody to see, yes, that there are others out there, what county that they live on, and everybody can chat within. And it is a little bit freer to be able to communicate there. But you, like you said, you don't have that. When you're ready to start getting to the table and connecting, you got to be able to be at the table, and the chat is not the table, right? The chat's like the kids' table at the family dinner.
Okay.
Right? Really, because and there's going to be a lot of questions going, and probably a lot of different topics, because other people are connecting. They haven't been able to chat for a bit, so they're connecting. So sometimes that chat's not going to be as productive. Whereas when you're actually on, where you can get on camera, have that mic communication, then you're really getting involved in connecting and getting into participating. See the difference?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. And again, that's why, we're programmed to not really like a mirror for many reasons, and have made sure that if we do have a mirror, we try to make sure we keep it like centrally one place, or as small as possible, or just enough to mirrors are an issue for a lot of people, but a lot of times that's how that carries over as like with the camera, because they're seeing, when their camera is on, they're seeing themselves on their screen, right? So it's not just that they're seeing everybody else, it's that they're seeing themselves too. So we have to be here for each other to be able to see. It doesn't have to, not everything is perfect. We don't have a gorgeous production set behind, and a makeup crew and hair and clothing and stuff like that. This is real life. We're here to actually, because we're all living men and women, we have lives, and we need to try and get the work done so that we can be able to get back to our lives. It's not about the show and the frill and drama of it. I mean, that's what the de facto has become, is nothing but a show. It's all scripted. It's all about the senators and representatives. They're so big on trying the appearance of and how it looks, the optics of, they're asking those hard questions, but yet when they have people that they've called forward, they said, they're calling someone that's supposed to be in a position that should have answers, and that one that they've brought forward is giving no answers. Well, they have authority to be able to take that further, but they don't. They just went, well, but I asked. And that's how many like to do, to make it look like they're busy, look like they're being supportive, but they've actually made no grounds in any headway of bringing forward anything new. Right? We see a lot of that. We see a lot of that. And or we'll see those of and then they'll, not necessarily on purpose, but it becomes a chaotic mess, right? And then it's like, I'm sorry, and then it's people either just go ahead and take over, because it's like, well, it's okay, you at least tried, but that was their excuse to get out of it. So a lot of times they just did that as a way to get out of it, but they at least tried. So it's seeing all the different little games, but helping each other to move past that, not looking to find blame for ourselves or blaming anybody else. But you still have to take time to look at what the actions and behaviors are, so you even know what it is you've got to correct in the first place. So, and this is how we help each other, and coming together at the table helps us come and unite. When we're not together at the table, the house is divided. I mean, there's nothing, work isn't getting done because people aren't coming together, and then wonder why nothing's getting done.
Yep. I hope this comment that I'm going to make right now is going to be all right. But it'd be nice, the chat side with all kinds of people with their names from the counties. I look forward to that day, seeing a whole bunch of people sign.
Right. Okay. So start visualizing. Start every time you have a free moment, visualize you're seeing the chats loaded down with all different counties. And start visualizing it and being as though you're there. Because there may be times that you want to help moderate and support the chat for a call. For like, if you were on, say you were on YouTube in the chat, because you can, just like you've seen with the other calls, they have moderators, right? Where they have someone that can work on helping to answer the questions going through in the call. Or if it is something that needs to be, hey, can bring it up, where it's actually brought up on the call if it's something that needs to be brought forward, or they're trying to help answer questions in the background. But also if if things get a little out of hand, or if it gets off topic, helping to bring things back. So there's a lot of things that all of these tools are helpful, that are ways to also help you too, to be able to unite and help bring people forward. So there's ways of just visualizing the different platforms with all the and we want 92 counties, right? We got our number's 92.
All right, 92.
92, right? That's what we're working towards. We want to see someone from every county on the calls. Wouldn't that be
Yeah,
great?
that'd be great. Oh yeah.
That would be awesome. All
Yes.
right. That was a great conversation. Thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate that. All right. So we've got quick on there's a fan I know it's on Eventbrite, and I did not get that link yet. But uh all of America, all the 50 states are planning to meet in Plymouth, Massachusetts at Faith Monument, like a family gathering. There's no cost in there. That's just more so of like kind of giving a head count of who all to plan to anticipate to be there to see how, you know, if we can get as many to come as possible. The plan is November 11th of this year to go. We are also on Telegram. We have the home on Indiana channel, as well as the new member orientation on Telegram. I have not been getting into Clout Hub. That's more of just an all putting a direct post in. There's nothing you can schedule out there. You can't do any streaming to it. So I haven't really had much time to spend on just individual ones like that yet. But if anybody has Clout Hub experience and they're interested in wanting to support to help moderate and get what information goes out on like Telegram or with not Telegram, but like on YouTube or Rumble could be shared out on Clout Hub, things like that. If you're interested in helping that way, please email records at the indianaassembly.org so we can see about getting you going. But that would be helpful, super helpful. See, there's so many ways you can be able to help support. And then also the link tree for all of the links for the assembly's address, sites, everything, as well as Federation websites and that you can go to. Which, as a reminder, some are popping up, emailing that they're having trouble with Mattermost or wanting to get a start with Mattermost or can't update their password or something like that. And this is not going to be relative to new members coming in, but past members is that Mattermost had gotten overwhelming. So the Federation had shut down of adding new people, and if they got locked out for the password, they weren't allowed back in, as they're trying to work through to reorganize that to where it is more supportive and constructive. A lot of information was getting pushed from a lot of newbies. They thought they were trying to be helpful, but it was saturating it with non-land and soil jurisdiction information, and we've got to work through that. So because that's misleading, that's deceiving people, sending them on that direction, even though they don't think it in their own mind, because they really think they're trying to help share what they've learned, but they're not comprehending that still jurisdiction or air jurisdiction processes. All right, so here's a reminder in the circle, so you can print this out and read. This is a great one-pager to be able to keep with you, also as a great outreach tool to be able to talk with others. But this is the part that we're working to reconstruct, so that's going to give you more information. There's only one assembly with the Federation. This is it. And to be eligible is 21 years of age. It's lawful age. You have to be a national or citizen. So you have to present. You can't just state that, oh, I status corrected, because many think that some of these other freedom movement processes status correct them to land and soil, and it actually did not. So you have to actually present your status correction documents. You do have to have a permanent home on the state. You have to actually live here on Indiana. I have had many that have status corrected and then end up saying that they're homeless. Well, now that changes the whole picture, because the whole point of this is because you're a state national or state citizen, means you actually have a home, you live on that state. Many are very confused with that and don't comprehend why then they're not able to then get support at that point, because they don't technically have a home on the state. All right. So think about those things. Many think they're going to use that as the opportunity to be able to see about helping them to get help of finding somewhere else to live. Well, we don't have those services here. We're having a hard enough time just keeping the lights on here, keeping things maintained ourselves for the assembly, but then we're not able to, we don't have a general fund to be able, a welfare fund to be able to support in that way. So things to think about. And a lot of that is about self-governing. We have to remember that they have to publicly record their documents and present to the assembly. All right, then
Christine,
this. Okay, go ahead.
I got a question on that. What happens if I would move from like Indiana to like another state, like Ohio or something?
Okay.
So I would have to wait a year and a day to become a member of the assembly. But do I have to do all the paperwork process all over again with Ohio?
Well, you'll have to check with Ohio. Most likely, some of it you'll have to update, because it will have it will have your Indiana information, like your fee schedule. You'll want to change to your new address, right? If you're going to end up issuing, if you need to issue your fee schedule for something. So there may be, you may need to update the, there may be some of them that they're going to require for the assembly as well, but your status still carries over. It's not like you have to start all over. But now where the year and a day comes in is if you wanted to actively participate on a committee, serve as an elected official or an appointed official. You can still be a general member, okay, within the General Assembly. You just can't participate on the committees. Now you could also do things like helping to support as a moderator in the chats. There's other things that are not assembly building that you could still, ways that can still be done to support outreach, connections, things like that. There's a lot of things you could still be able to support while you're waiting for that year and a day.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But then you'll also probably, if you had gotten a credential here, you'll probably, or whatever state you go to.
Right.
But again, it's, as you go along for each thing, you'll discover. But always start with that. Go to that. You got to present to that assembly. Okay. Once you've established a home there, you got to then present to that assembly that you have that you've moved to that state, and they'll be able to see your information in the LRO if it is in the LRO, which yours is. So but you have to still be able to connect with them as well, even if you had no intent of doing anything with the assembly. Okay, because as far as building the assembly, but if you wanted to be able to still be a part of gaining the education and the knowledge about how to be able to walk as an American, you still would start you can still get onto those calls, things like that, right? But you got to let them know, so when they're having them and things like that.
Right.
And it's the right thing to do. It's like you move to it's another nation state, right? It's another country. So it's being respectful that Americans are respectful. You've moved to another home.
Yes.
Just from that, from that kind of perspective, to help you get a reminder of what that's like. All right. Anything else? Is that?
Not right now.
Okay.
Not for me.
Okay. Good. Thank you. That was great. Great points. All right. So again, only one lawful assembly for each state. And so there aren't none of these other organizations or anywhere or anything connected to the Federation of States. Okay. Doesn't mean that they're not influential in being a freedom movement, because we're all on the same path. We're all looking at we're all on the same going for the same destination. We're looking for the same goal of trying to reach freedom. It's just we all have a different path that are being taken, and some aren't seeing that they're not actually taking a different route. They're just right back in. And here are you have three choices. You can either be here as an American, with the American State Assembly, and present yourself as status corrected and live as working towards self-governing and working to be able to help bring this forward, or you can join the district or municipal assemblies, and here's more information about. They'll support you. They'll allow you to. They'll be your cradle to grave to support if that's what you're looking for. Reminder that the General Assembly is the driver. It runs the whole. Everything goes through the General Assembly. Everybody is a part of the assembly that lives on Indiana, even if haven't completed status correction, even if they haven't stepped up to work on support committees. If they live on Indiana today, they're part of the General Assembly. Same goes for the Jural Assembly, and same goes for the Militia Assembly. It's only the Business Assembly that they have to be a fully corrected state citizen to participate with the Business Assembly. And again, here's the four pills. If you wanted a diagram of itself, and you'll be able to see what different offices are in each of the pillars, because these are roles that somebody has to stand up and fill. And I tell my husband all the time, I get that visual from there's an old Bill Murray movie where they ended up going into the military, and the commanding officer was saying, need some volunteers, probably for latrine cleanup or something, but need volunteer. And everybody stepped backwards and didn't let Bill Murray know that they were even moving. He was just standing still, and everybody else stepped backwards. Well, that's what it seems like it's become. Everybody is wanting to step backwards and let somebody else carry the load. Well, here's where you need to help. Here's where you can be able to see how you can be able to bring that support. All right, so I've put this I updated this back on May 20th. We've had a few calls. Like I said last week, there was no power anyway for the Jural Assembly, and so things have been kind of slow anyway because of it being Memorial holiday. A lot of people take a vacation, things like that. So it was a little slow anyway. And here's the breakdown on each county is to if they're a national citizen, a federal person, and if they are a federal person, they've still declared that they're a federal person. And then there are those that are in process. Now, the 30 counties that you see on the map here that are in white, no one has spoken up on those counties to at least say that they would like more information. So if you're in a green or a yellow county, connect with a white county too there to see about if they want for more information about the assembly. But then you can see here how many we have. I got puppies that are moving stuff. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. I have a puppy from the first round of puppies that just got caught up in the cord on the microphone. Okay. All right. So that way you can see how many are on, and the counties that are in green, they have at least one that has done the bare minimum to status correct as a national. Bare minimum is verifying that you have a permanent home on Indiana today. You may not have lived on Indiana a year and a day yet, but you have a permanent home established a year and a day. The 1779 declaration, birth certificate, and 2 witness testimonies are the bare minimum for national. And then, of course, then more depends on how far you're willing to take it. All right. And so that means that, and that populates the county. And that is one of the, in our mission statement, one of the is to repopulate the state and counties. And that's this portion here of the mission. And the goal is to have all 92 counties in green. All right, so again to the actual agenda. Date on the new general member orientation course. Now for March, and March was one that it was split because we were just splitting over to Zoho to be able to do the registration for the new member orientation. Because the point of that is because we need you to start making commitments that you're going to show up for something. But then when you do make a commitment to say that you're going to show up, you need to actually show up. Okay, so I wanted to present as to also, I'm sure a lot of it is probably timing, but the time was given at the time of registration. So these few months here, and June finishes out of doing the first. So April or March, March was wrapping up where I was doing 3 weeks back to back and then off 3 weeks back to back lessons and then off 3 weeks. It's April, May, and June where I went to the first 3 Sundays of the month, trying a different time slot to be able to try and see if that makes it easier for others to make it to the call. For April, there were 6 that registered for all 3 lessons, but there were only 3 showed up of the first lesson, 4 in the second, and 3 in the third. Okay, well, all 3 lessons are required. They have different material in each. And it's not about just registering and then think you'll get credit. There's actual a knowledge review that you have to do afterwards, and you're not going to get that link until you've completed the call. So, and we've actually had someone that has gone to the first call of May and June, stayed on the call for the first 15-20 minutes, enough to make sure that they got their name and county recognized, that they were on the call, and then they left the call and then didn't show up for the other 2 calls either. Well, you're not going to get the knowledge review link for that. Now, you're more than welcome to go back to all the presentations and all the videos and everything, but you have to take the knowledge review if you're actually wanting to work to support with the assembly build. Okay, there's no getting around it. So, and those are all tactics of a U.S. citizen of the United States trying to play the game. Okay, so that 6 that stated that they would show up for those calls, but not even half actually end up coming to the call and staying all the way through. Same goes for May. 6 registered for May, 3 came to the first, 1 left early, then 2 for the second, and 1 for the third. And we've already just had the one for June yesterday. 5 registered for the call, but only 1 actually came. And 2 showed up, but 1 showed up again and left after getting name and county. And so I'm not counting them anymore because they don't get the knowledge review anyway. Grow up. This is we're actually learning self-governance here. We're not here to play these games. We're here to actually get some work done. So now I'm working at changing July to try and find a different time slot, way to be able to help people, and do just a little bit later than 5 o'clock, but do the 11th, 12th, and 13th. It's a little bit different because we have 4th of July in there, so we didn't really want to have anything. We all want to be able to enjoy our weekend for that. So working at 11th, 12th, and 13th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I've got to see about how to deal with August and September, just trying to do like 3 months at a time to see how that fits in. Let's see, do I have a message on Telegram? I don't know how to see it. Hold on. Does it tell me? Nope. I don't know how I'm supposed to. Okay. All right. Oh, that's in the other. Okay. All right. See, and that's where having, because there are those that that may not be wanting to help with building the assembly, but have status corrected and have tech support and are able to do a lot of the technology aspect to help make sure things are going. All right. Calls to action. Make sure that you're receiving the email list. I received an email from someone that I did their doc prep, and they're saying what are their next steps, and I looked up everything, and they didn't follow. Their welcome home email was sent out about 3 weeks ago, and they hadn't done anything towards that the welcome home email said. So like, you have to actually open the emails. You have to actually read them. They're, some may be repetitive, but that's also part of helping to break through the indoctrination and the programming. So you're going to have to make sure that if you're not receiving these emails, don't look for if you did, for example, the new member orientation registration, that's a totally different email. So just because you're receiving that doesn't mean you're receiving the assembly emails. That's coming from the provider for that service, which I'm also trying to see about changing over to using Eventzilla instead of Zoho, trying to reduce some of the assembly costs because in order to help keep things going, but yet still have that registration process. And that was part of what the Zoho, that segment was for, was trying to find something that was going to help meet that registration process so that people can start actually following through with commitments. I've talked about this again many times of the volunteer for tech support. We just talked about that, as well as we need to start putting together the General Assembly committees. There's an email that's gone out that has a list of the General Assembly committees that are needed to be filled. And no, there's been one response. So you need to actually, there's going to be action items in there, whether it's something you have to actually read, or you have to open up and read, or you have to go do, but you're going to have some kind of action item you're going to have to do. You might as well get used to it. Okay. This link here on the high drive, it leads to the folder that has information to share with attorneys, doctors, and everyone. It does have the sole survivorship template within there, but make sure if you have not status corrected on the land and soil jurisdiction, not from these other movements, if you haven't done that, that sole survivorship document isn't going to work for you and it can get you in trouble. But that is loaded down with, and it also has the American Relief and Remedy package of where it's a lot of notice information that you can also send out to serve notice to people, to the corporations to start with their liquidate, either get in line or liquidate. So that's a valuable folder, but that means though you'll have to do some printing. It means you'll have to do some mailing, right? It's an action item. Be prepared. Americans are about action. U.S. citizens are lazy. I don't know how else to get any clearer. All right, so here's a Treasury update. This is just a reminder of just some of the things that are the regular monthly costs that still go on, just to keep things going on here. Just to keep the general stuff going on. And that's where also the doc prep service bundles came into play to try and help generate that support to the assemblies. But to this day, and it's been since I first started in 2019, we've had she finished her status correction early 2020. She set up $10 a month and has been consistent, $10 a month. We've had no other donations this month, nor last month. Last month, we did have one doc prep. But it's that money that comes in that covers these fees. So how do you think these fees get covered? Which means that comes from me and my husband. supporting to help bring this forward so that we can still make sure this happens. So all the help we can possibly get to be able to still make sure these things happen. That's why I'm looking at Eventzilla to eliminate Zoho webinars, which would eliminate free up $12 a month. Because it would still be able to use meetings for the recording aspect. And right now, meetings is the cheapest webinar recording aspect, where you can be able to do the so that I can also do it for the recordings for those that are needing their documents witnessed, recorded, and things like that. I can do it. That's cheaper than Zoom or WebEx or any of those others. And I can convert then the webinars, the recording and everything through meetings, because the point of webinars was to be able to have that registration perspective. And I'm thinking Eventzilla will allow a free service for not having being able to use the registration process, as well as Eventzilla will allow you that if to be able to give a gift of support at the time of registering. So it doesn't mean that the call costs, it doesn't mean that it costs anything for the registration. You can put zero in there, but it's an opportunity that if you wanted to give a gift of support to help keep things going, that's an opportunity where you could be able to do it. It doesn't cost extra. Whereas webinars has additional, monthly fee to be able to have where you can collect payments. So this was just to be able to have that registration aspect. So still working to work through things to see how to be able to adjust free conference call. And that's got to have that to be able to store the recordings for free conference call. Forms is for a lot of, this is so that we can be able to do like the elections went through for the last run of elections for the public law, the two public laws that were presented to the assembly went through forms. And then that way we can have a record, and as well as once the people place their ballot, they get a PDF of their ballot. It's also being used for the doc prep process to be able to collect their intake information for the services. So it's already been a very useful tool. Rumble, that is $10 a month to be able to be able to use Rumble and Rumble Studio. The monthly service for high drive emails, and I think the monthly internet service is within that one is $36 a month. And like this month though too is the annual renewal of the domain names, the annual renewal of the SSL in order to have in the web address for the domain, in order for it to have HTTPS for the security protocol. So there's a lot of these things that still have to keep going, just to be able to, for you all to be able to have the remote ability to be able to access that information. Of course, there's internet. I do have to have a cell phone because a lot of this tech stuff and the finance stuff has to have a cell phone to be able to do all the automate, to be able to ensure that it's to verify who you are. So have to have that. And that's just to have cell phone. That doesn't include internet service on that. That was a deal that I was able to get at the time. And that's going to be changing a little bit because it's, that was a discount rate. So it's going to change. But it hasn't had internet at all. It's just literally been for a cell phone number. And then, of course, Mega Drive has a lot of historical documents and things that I'm still sending people to for information, as well as assembly calls, past assembly calls loaded up there and stuff like that. So we have to maintain that. So that's roughly what our monthly expenses are of trying to maintain and keep things going. Then there's the semi or annual expense of the post office box. We're working with keeping, you have to have electricity. We do have to have water, the office space, storage for everything. So there's a lot of things that, in order just to maintain the records from the physical aspect as well as the digital aspect. So be a reminder as to, if you're not supporting, it is of, by, and for the people. There is no money.
Christy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so are like this General Assembly, this is the finances or the monthly expenses just for the General Assembly? Or does this cover also the General Assembly, the business? And I don't think we have
This
the
is
business
just,
yet,
this is
and
overall
we don't-
for, because we're not really doing anything yet. Nobody's meeting yet for this, but it is to be able to hold that bi-monthly General Assembly call. We have to have the tech support, right, to be able to carry that General Assembly call. Then we have to have the storage to hold the recordings and the presentations, right?
Right. So is there, like, if I go to that, when I get the emails from you and it's like, it says support the Indiana Assembly.
Right.
Yeah,
if you go to the square,
does that come into here?
Yeah, it comes straight to us. Yeah, that's what those links are for when you do it through there. If you do a donation through your LRO, it goes to the Federation first, and then there's a quarterly distribution. So it could take it's not immediate to get to the assembly, and we need this every day, right? So that's where this comes. You can either go to the At Home on Indiana. There's a link there for to be able to do different amounts of donations or set your own amount, whether one time or monthly, as well as the indianassembly.square.site website has, like, if you wanted to donate specifically for technology or specifically for the General Assembly, things like that, or the Debt Redemption Center, that's broken up more like that way as well. But, it's also right now the hardcore that needs to be covered, of course, is going to be technology, to be able, because that's what's mainly the support right now, so that we have the ability to have these remote calls, so everybody has the recordings later to go back to, right?
And so all you're getting is just $10?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Throughout the years,
up.
there's been periodically, where people have made one time, or they started for a little bit doing monthly and then they quit. But this is the only one that is still in play, that has been in play since I started. And there's no other monthly donation set up right now in play. It's a regular support. So again, that's where people have to remember that this is not like the de facto. There are no public tax dollars supporting any of this. It literally is by the people. So, and this is just to keep the ability for us all to be able to meet remotely, whether it's through the assembly calls, through the trainings, as well as for recordings, witnessings, consults, directly with Indianians, and to be able to store that information, whether it's physically as well as online, for everybody to also have that 24/7 access to it. So
we don't want to lose this.
So this is where you have to have the technology aspect. There is no other way right now. The state's too big. There's too many have their own time frames, and so that's why I can't change the time for the assembly without it going to the assembly for a vote. But I can change the new member orientation times, trying to find a time, because nobody's responding to the emails to answer when a good day and time would be that they could come. So that's why I've moved towards registering for the calls, and then still, so it's trying to, you got to be able to have the technology. We have to have the remote ability for the information to still get out there and be available for everybody's different times, to still get that information and still be able to learn from it. And so that's what these, and there's no way of getting around not having a post office. I mean, I've tried working through a lot of things to try and make, minimize expenses and still bring forward what we need. But even like the post office box, because with our mail is all paper. Well, if it rains, and it rains a lot down here in Gibson County, it's going to be a nasty mess, and I can't reproduce that paperwork. So I have it sent to the post office in order to ensure that it's going to stay dry and safe until I can get it. But it also means, we're in a small little town, so I only have certain times when I can get there, and it's not always the same time when our postman's there. So he also tries to help me as much as possible to make sure our mail is safe. He's been paying attention every time I've had conversation. I've built a great relationship with him as well. But so there's just things that there's no getting around, that you have to have in order just to bring the bare minimum forward. And that's not even, including trying to bring forward, having in the flesh events of where we can get together. There's finding a venue, then, most likely there's a cost to be able to have it there. And a lot of that, I'm not going to be able to travel to the northern part of the state where I don't know the area to try and find a place for everybody to come together. But the offer's been out there, find a place, but it's also, everybody come together and chip in to be able to cover it, and I can, depending on where it's at, I can then do a remote call to be there live from a remote aspect. But if it's also close enough, then I can go there in the physical and still be able to have that remote, so we can still connect. So there's the technology aspect. There's really not much getting around it, other than me continuously trying to find, a way to streamline the costs as much as possible and still try to meet our needs. So that was something that I don't bring it up on a quarterly basis or a regular monthly basis, because, it's a difficult subject. Many people, I know it's a hard time. We've got what they've termed Biden economics going on, and I understand we have families, we have things going on, but sometimes it does have to, it has to come forward. This is part of self-governing. So bringing it forward as to what's actually going on, that's being done in the background, that people don't realize is still being made to happen, so that you can have this information. And that's a lot of what you're seeing, like with Anna and her team. There's a lot of things going on in the background. Just because you're not seeing it doesn't mean it's not still going on. Here's also continuing with Treasury, in a sense, information, but this moves into debt redemption, Mochi, Sign in America. If you send an email to the Sign in America email address, this is the information that you're looking for. It's been out there. It's also just to, that you've definitely connected in, but this is the information. Each state, Anna has directed that each state be the designated debt redemption center for each state, the assembly. So the website, the link there has documents there. That is what is currently in play, of what to be able to work with through the process. When you hear of the past Sign in America information, that was prior to training nationals to be able to do this Mochi process for themselves. So it's only dealing with items that were submitted from 2019 to 2021, I want to say, nothing new. The process that is on the Debt Redemption Center for the website is for items that are current. And it is to help to support with bills that you have with anyone trying to get money from you, as well as support for court process. But again, you have to go there. There are videos where we've gone through the documents, as well as you're still going to have to read through the material, because it's going to be, you're going to have to look at your situation, what you're willing to walk with, what you're willing to do. I cannot answer for you what exactly you need to do for you. You have to read through that material. But you'll find what you're going to find what you need there, but you're going to have to work through it to be able to figure. The most updated version of the process is version 15. But you'll also be able to see past videos where we have had trainings walking through it, gets the gist. But look at version 15. It'll be at the top because the most recent information is at the top. And that's going to help you with working through that. But here's some basic Q&A about what this process is and isn't. All right, so here is the list of the general education committees that we are needing people to step up for. You have to at least be a national or a citizen, but even as a national, you will have to have canceled voter registration, IRS, sent the declaration of political status, have the fee schedule, and if you were former military, and of course the new member orientation training course. So those are even as a national. You don't have to have all of the 928s as a national unless you choose to. But then citizen includes the 928s. So here's the list. You will have had an email that was in your first run of email series that had, and it may even start coming on a once or twice a month now, of the different right now we're going to focus on the general education committee so we can get that moving. Okay, we've got to get the general education moving, because if they're not even in the General Assembly yet, they're not going to be able to move forward into the other assemblies. Okay, because these are the foundations. The driver is the General Assembly, so everything starts in the General Assembly before it can move into the other pillars anyway. So you will find that email, and you'll need to make it select what you're interested in, and then we can be able to make sure you have all your paperwork for it. You are not going to need a background check unless you are stepping up for an elected official role, something you have to be elected for. And
Christine?
Yes, go ahead.
So how do you envision how this works when we're all remotely from you, or how does the General Education Committee, what's your vision of how it's for other people also, how this committee is supposed to work then?
Well,
do we develop it? We volunteer and then we develop that plan.
Yes. And that's where in the procedure template earlier on up in the presentation, because the General Assembly will assign the committee a project to work on, and then the committee then uses that procedures to be able to develop the process of working through whatever it is the assignment was from the assembly.
Okay.
Because the committee will just, the committee members will decide who's going to, because you got to have a chair, you got to have a secretary, you got to have your core people. And then you're going to have to go through that standard procedure and decide what are going to be the deliverables to verify that you did do what you said you did, and be able to present that to the assembly. What gives you a little more detail as to what what goes on within each of, what the content would be based more around, you'll see in, let me, there are itself for the assembly calls where it's of the committees, the way we work, and the role of public office. There's like 2 or 3 of them of articles from Anna. The links will be there, and it goes in more detail as to what the content of what each of those committees would cover. So it's not so much about what I see from that aspect, because the process of how to operate land and soil jurisdiction was already in place. So it's just taking that information, you got to actually look at it, get into it, and see how to then apply it. So that the committees, the way we work. So it'll go into more information on what the general education committee is going to have. So it's probably going to be a lot more of how to do basic training with like the paperwork, how to understand their status correction paperwork, not how to use it yet, but how to, how at least understand it at the beginning. Then as more and more step up and have had opportunities to use the paperwork, then they'll be able to start explaining to others how to use the paperwork, because we're all here to teach each other and help each other. Events committee. Mostly the events committee, again, is going to be set up where the General Assembly is going to determine whether it's an outreach event or it's for elections, because you got to determine where that election would be held. If it's and that even means if it's online, the events committee would be working with tech to make sure that there was a whole setup to be able to have the remote access to it, and to also have that recording of it as well. They'll have to make sure then if it is a physical place to go to, that place, making sure present to the assembly if there's any costs, and to be able to raise that. The events committee would do all that research, be able to get it booked for the time, things like that. So records committee would be reviewing the assembly documents for status correction, ensuring that everybody's paperwork is tight to ensure the state, national, or citizens, their safety, but also to ensure the safety of the assembly, to make sure that our records are intact as land and soil jurisdiction. Banking committee, that should be pretty clear. That's going to also, it's kind of treasury at the same time, but it's also how to be able to work with the global family group, gaining information on how to teach, because it's banking directly. So be gathering the information on how to support Indianians on how to access their credit once more information comes out for that. Oversight committee is that, if there are things that are, a lot of times it's making sure that the committees are actually staying in line of what they're doing. It's not an oversight committee of trying to have any kind of authority or hierarchy in that. It's just, we're all supposed to self-check and make sure we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing. Ombudsman committee, that is that's going to be working with the peacekeepers, because that's from a perspective if there are disagreements within the assembly, within the committee, within committees, or within members within the assembly, then the ombudsman committee steps up to support trying to bring resolution to that. Vetting committee would also they would be the ones that would be interviewing as people are coming in, especially for elected official roles, to ask them, get to know them more. So pretty much that's a brief overview of what those committees would be doing, essentially. But a lot of that then too, at the same time, is that you're going to be developing each of the committees are going to have to work through some of those steps, because you've got to apply it in with 21st century technology, right? You got to apply it with what we've got to work with today. So some of that is as you're going along, the committee will develop and figure out how those things will work. So it's both yes and no to your question, as well as to what those, it's not really how I see how those committees, other than my view of those committees, that they're all going to be full. Everybody's going to be overflowing, wanting to beat down the door to trying to get into the committees to be able to help support. And they're all going to be coming from a standard, prudent man standard, that they're no self gain. It's about helping to better Indiana as a whole. And that's where my vision is for all of those committees. That it's going to be, because they're going to be huge groundbreaking in making changes for Indiana and for America as a whole, which is also then leading the way for other countries across the planet too.
That'd be great.
Right.
It'd be nice to see the day when we were totally successful at that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's where we have to spend, because Anna's told us on many webinar calls and in many of her more deeper articles of the envision what your joy, your happy place is. Envision what it, get that visual within you as to what it is you're wanting to bring forward. You have to see it, get it in your mind's eye so that you can bring it into your physical. And as long as it is in accordance to the will of God, it will come into the physical.
Yep.
So, because God always wins.
Yep.
All right. So then we have, because Florida is rolling along, they're already actually in play with their, with many things going on there. So they've brought forward what they have for their whole election process for Florida, that is so that we can be able to evaluate it. Is that something that that we want to bring forward on Indiana, or it could be something of work with it until something, until as more knowledge comes along and, be able to adjust and go along, but it would be at least a template to get started. Not sure, but you got to at least get in there, read it, and see, is that something that would be a viable process that could be done here on Indiana? Because of course it would have to be something that would be brought forward to the General Assembly to be brought forward for a vote to bring it for Indiana. So some actual things that are calls to action that have been out there for a little bit, so we can get things moving here. All right. So then we have, because we haven't met in 2 weeks. So here is a catch up of the articles from Anna, as her usual, running through. I haven't had a chance to get a moment to run through any of them, because sometimes I'll try to say, bold to say this is a great read, especially, but I haven't really didn't get a chance with puppies. If you can hear, we're laughing because my husband, we're like, now they sound like magpie. Don't feed them after midnight and give them water. So it's funny, but that's the great thing about life coming into the world. So that means that there's great things going on here, and I'm excited. Because Spirit is amazing. All right. Yes, mommy. And the mom pup has walked over here. Okay. All right. So real quick for militia stuff, which, by the way, part of what is with militia relative anyways, because we've got to start working on how we're going to, learn to take care of our own food, clean our water and stuff like that. So I'm working to try. I've been doing things of working through a garden and trying to getting things up on YouTube, or having posts to start sharing what I'm doing, of tips on how to bring forward your own food and things like that. So I'll work. That's one aspect of the militia as well. So again, militia is not all military type of action. It's all the other stuff that's not a part of the mission statement, but it's within the militia aspect. Here is also 2 articles: Call to Public Office and Bearing Public Office. It's listed here because it gives for various peacekeeper roles, but as well as any of the other roles that you're interested in. You have to actually step up, and we have to then ensure that you are eligibility is only on making sure that you have all the paperwork in, and that you have made Indiana your home, a permanent home for at least a year and a day. In order to then of course you have to go before be put on the ballot for the assembly to elect. Eventually it'd be nice, my view on that as we're going along on some of this same thing here, John, is that my view on that, of course, is that every office is going to be filled as well. But that gives you more details about what each of those roles are, and the bearing public office, what that internalness that comes with that. Now, the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, they cover 100 air miles around the border of our continent. Okay. And so on this map, where that line is at, that goes to where the 100, approximately, based on what I could gather from their maps. There was nothing specific either, but that is about where everything, all those counties to the north fall within customs and U.S. Customs and Border Control, and so they are a little bit heavier on Americans in these areas as well. So if your current county sheriff seems like they're constitutional, that they would, not necessarily stating that they would know anything about land and soil jurisdiction yet or anything, but are constitutional. If you have that kind of relationship and want to talk with them, great, but send them Joe's information. He is our postal area chief for Area 4, as well as he's the executive director for the Peacekeeping Task Force. We are fortunate that he is our postal area chief as well. But if your sheriff in one of those northern counties, if they are seemingly constitutional and at least open to hear, send Joe their contact information, and he can then reach out to them to start supporting, to see how we can be able to start protecting Americans within these counties. If your county if the current county sheriff is not constitutional in any way, they're definitely appointed by the corporation, then we need to find a citizen on your county that is willing to step up to be a sheriff on your county. Obviously, at some point, we're going to need to have a sheriff on every county, but especially right now, we need to focus on getting land and soil jurisdiction sheriffs on these northern counties to help support our border, help support Indiana, as well as help to support all the other states within our country, so that because we're part of the wall. We too have to hold up our end of the wall. United we stand, divided we fall. All right. Also, the Peacekeeper Task Force is looking for one assembly liaison to be able to that's willing to come to meet with Peacekeeping Task Force, meet with Joe for training, but also then come back to the table to present that information to the General Assembly. Now, he's asked that in that type of capacity that it be someone, they can be a national, but they still have to have status corrected. They have to have the what necessary cancellations in, and no other roles within the assembly. So then that way they can, keep that neutrality in a sense. But they still are responsible for coming to the table, to the assembly, to to share the information, because that liaison will be working directly with the assembly to discover what information is going on the state, and then that they bring that information to Joe with the Peacekeeper Task Force, as well as they're going to bring the information of what they're working with the U.S. government, so that we can be able to start building a working relationship here. So if you're interested, you can go here to this link with the Peacekeeper Task Force, and that'll give you more information about it, as well as how you can, if you are interested, to be able to connect. But again, if you are going to, because right now I think he's just doing like a review, so you get an idea, is that something that you even want to do? And then if you do agree to it, again, that means then you're going to have to come to the assembly calls. You're going to have to make yourself available on the call. You're going to have to share the information to be able, that it's just like any of the other roles. Okay. All right. They are on available. Anna presented that November of 2023. Here is contact information, website if you are interested in getting a med bed yourself, or if you wanted to support the assembly with getting a med bed. Here is a link if you wanted to donate to be able to start that. Albeit not sure exactly where it would go at the moment, but that would be something to at least get started, and then have the ability to, like she says here, because it's $5,000 plus shipping. If you charge $10 a treatment for those that can't afford it, you could be able to recoup that quickly. All right. So again, here are the links, connections for the assembly. How to give directly is the indianaassembly.square.site. Again, all gifts are welcome, non-refundable, and all benefits waived. And here is a reminder. This is the very last line of the Declaration of Independence. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. That's the very last line of the Declaration of Independence. And again, it was never about separate church and state, or separation from God. It was about separation from the king, so that the people could be free. Right? All right, so that wraps up what I have for this evening. Again, here are support links for James and Anna and the assembly. Review. So the next General Assembly call is on the 17th of June, and the next General Assembly is next week on the 10th of June, both at 6 p.m. Central. And I will be updating here. It's probably going to be a little bit later, but running through and putting in that first agenda item page, who was joined us on the call this evening, so we can make sure that we have it for the record. And I think that's everything I have. Do you have any comments, John, before we go? Anybody have any comments before we head out here? You're still on mute if you're commenting. All right, so we'll go. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I don't have any other comments other than I hope everyone has a good week.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And thank you. And thank you for the presentation too.
Thank you very much. And it'll be a little bit later this evening, because my husband's going to be getting ready for work here soon. So, but then I'll have it out before I go to bed this evening. But the presentation and the video will be up for this evening as well. So, All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on next week's call again. And do like we talked about, vision all the counties green on the map. Envision that we have at least one from every county in the chats and at the call with us, on the call and connecting with us and getting this going. Start visualizing that. Start bringing that forward. I wish you all peace and love, and I will see you on the next call. Take care.
Bye-bye.